We'll start with a little posture stuff, so just roll the shoulders back, open up the chest. Roll the head around a little bit, side to front. Relax the neck, and roll the shoulders back again. Good. Nice tall sternum. We want to try and make sure those shoulders and neck are relaxed as much as possible. Any tightness there is going to pull up on the larynx and give you a tighter, spookier voice. We want to make sure everything is nice and relaxed and dropped so we can get that big open space. Go ahead and give me a nice sigh from the top of your range. Oh. Good. One more. Oh. Good. Sighing from bottom to top on an ooh. Ooh. Good. One more without me. Good. Oh. Good. We'll do a lot of sighing and sirens and things in between exercises just to make sure everything's staying nice and relaxed and free. When you're warming up on your own or when you're doing your own work, sighs and sirens are the best bang for your buck. That's going to make your voice better. If you take 30 seconds a day and just do a couple of oh, woo, 30 seconds a day in the morning and the evening, that'll really do a huge amount for your voice, much more than doing 1 or 2 hours of practice once a week. That daily practice really makes a big difference. One of the things I tell a lot of my students is it's like brushing your teeth. You don't wait till Saturday and brush your teeth for 3 hours. You brush your teeth every day for a few minutes. And those sighs and sirens really help to loosen things up, keep everything free, and help you work over that bridge between your head and your chest voice. Start nice and easy. Yep, down the octave is fine. Good, open up on the top. Good, one more time. Good, can we try to make sure that we're pushing that air through so we connect all of the notes through the line? I'm hearing this little extra puff of air in between to try to push out that last note. Try to keep it all continuous. Don't let the tone break. That kind of extra push in between. Keep it nice and stable all the way through. One more time right there. Much better, thank you. Good, go ahead and yawn for me. So you might be familiar with the word soft palate. Your soft palate is the top inside the mouth there. If you feel with your tongue behind your front teeth, you can feel where your gums are hard. If you feel up on the roof of the mouth, it gets a little bit squishier. That's adjustable. It's your soft palate. It can change the shape of your instrument to change the quality of your tone. Getting a little bit of from you guys instead of more of a UH instead of an AH. So if you think of that yawn space, if you think of like taking an egg and putting it inside your mouth, that big space. Some of my coaches would say, sing through the sensation of surprise. Like if you walk in, there's a surprise party, you go, that space. Getting a little just everything's kind of closed off in the back there. So one more time, sigh for me. Good, and yawn. And go, yes, give me that nice big space, and we'll do it right here. Good job, big breath. Good. Good. Try to make sure that you're raising your sternum a little bit more and rolling the shoulders back a bit more. What I'm seeing is with the shoulders forward, if you feel right down here in your bottom ribs, you'll feel that when your shoulders are rolled down, the ribs kind of push in a little bit there, and that keeps your diaphragm from being able to release and drop. The diaphragm needs to be able to drop and push the guts out of the way to give you full access to your lungs there. So if you then all you're going to get is the top half of the lungs. You won't get that full expansion on the bottom. When you open up, the ribs expand there, and you have room for your diaphragm to drop and fully.
You know, I once had my diaphragm cut away.
Really?
From the ribcage, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And reattached, and it took a long time to be able to breathe.
I've never heard of that. Wow.
Well, they had to cut it away in order to get to the field for all the back surgery I had.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's incredible. And then they reattached it. And
well, they had to.
But it took a while for the recovery. But
sure,
how long
I'd be
ago
in the
was
middle of talking and have to gasp.
Really? And how long ago was it?
21 years.
Wow. Did you so did you notice? Do you feel like you got back to a place where you were before the surgery, or did you still notice that like a damage in the stamina overall?
I don't know.
Wow.
Actually.
That's fascinating to me. I've never heard of that. That's really cool because I study a lot of the surgeries that can affect all of this. And there's some stuff around there, gastric bypass, there's things that they can do that can cause, but I've never heard of fully detaching the diaphragm.
Well, that's because they went in through the front and through the back to take care of my spine.
Oh, wow, so, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I had to sign papers,
Yeah, of course.
Pre-op. And I said, what is this ectomy?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, it's a blah, blah, blah. They're going to cut your diaphragm away. I said, no, they're not.
I said, what?
Yeah,
I kind of need that.
They couldn't sedate me till after I had signed papers, right? They made the poor thoracic surgeon had to come in and explain it a little better to me. So, what was I on? I was intubated, obviously.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I couldn't breathe on my own.
Wow, that's so interesting. So as I was saying before, just the expansion of the lower ribs is the key there. So yeah, that looks perfect. That's great. If you just open that up a little bit more, try to avoid those collapsed.
Well, they also cut away a couple of ribs, so I don't have a full set.
Wow. There you go. That's very interesting. Well, I wish that I could work with you long term because that's always fascinating to me with the individual things. Well, no, I've had some singers who've had similar, who've had surgery or smoking related issues or other stuff like that. And I've had singers that are physically disabled or in a wheelchair and things like that can really dramatically affect it as well. And there's all people with chronic asthma and allergy issues and things like that. So each of those things is very interesting because I learn a lot from trying to work in that individual case. So I think if I worked with you for a while, I could learn a lot about how just what can I not make her do because she doesn't have those ribs, and what goes away, and that would help me learn more about how it works for everybody else. Because I all I know is the anatomy that I know, and I don't know for sure what is what you'd be capable of and what you wouldn't. So you can push you for a while and then be like, oh, interesting. With this surgery now, I know this kind of thing doesn't work anymore.
You never know.
It sounds pretty good. When I'm hearing that, it sounds pretty good, and you've got some solid breath support there. So good. Let's go down to the lower range.
Yay.
Yes, exactly. Let's do zing, 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 zong. We're trying to get that ring resonance right up into the cheekbones and sinuses, so that NG is very helpful. Exactly, there you go. But try to keep the space inside as well. Don't let it go too shallow. Zing, 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 zang. Zing, 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 zong. Make sure that it's nice and open when you get down to the bottom. Zing, 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 zong. 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 Good. Zing, 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 zong. Zing, 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 zong. Nice. Very
What
good.
is that?
That's a low F sharp, G flat.
No.
Yeah.
What was my low one?
I don't remember when you quite
Six.
dropped out, but it was somewhere around like the C sharp, somewhere in that range where you told me that you go out. But yeah, that was all the way down to the low F sharp.
Well, again, no shit.
Yeah. It's very interesting. What I heard that is very good is that as you go down to the bottom end of your range, just make sure to keep everything just nice and easy and relaxed. A lot of people overproduce when they get down to their low stuff. Zing 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 za. I like try to make this like low sound as opposed to what you did, which is just relaxing and releasing it. Zing 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 za. And just let it come out, almost like speech like za. So if you try to work too much there, any tension is going to just take a couple notes off the end of your bottom range. You know, as a pianist, the longer strings play the lower notes, right? So any tension that's in there is going to make it harder to fully extend the vocal folds and get you that full length to resonate with the low chords. That's why the high notes tend to feel a little bit more tension anyway, because the chords have to zip up to make them shorter to get those high notes. So it's bad to have tight high notes, but it's easier to produce some high notes if you kind of like squeeze and scream. You feel that like need to do that, and some people try to do that on the low end too, and it doesn't do anything for you. It just gets rid of some of your low stuff. So I could see you were just sort of like this meditative, relaxed, just nice and easy, and you got some new low notes that you didn't know you had. So.
Well, no shit.
Yeah.
Talk about vibrato a little bit, because there are voices I dislike intensely because of the vibrato.
Yeah, so that's
especially in sopranos.
So that's a complicated issue that is complicated by age. The most voice teaching and when you research the voice, it's mostly based around sort of prime age, you know, like college age to maybe about 35, 45, you know, maybe early 50s, like sort of the age of an average opera singer's career. You know, that's where most of the pedagogues have focused their study. So within that framework of like a healthy, well-optimized voice, vibrato is a response to the healthy vocal function of the chords. So it is not something that is produced or that there's a technique around. It's something that comes out when the chords are producing naturally. Now, the thing that's complicated by age is that very, very young singers will tend to have almost no vibrato at all. They have much smaller vocal folds. They have a much more pure tone. Older singers start to lack tension, vocal fold. I don't want to say tension, but like the elasticity, you know, the muscle tone, you know, all that starts to fade as you get older. And that also happens in the vocal folds. So you get this thing that sounds the same as vibrato, and the voice community has not been very good about distinguishing kind of different qualities of the same idea with new words. So we call it vibrato, but in my understanding is that it's not quite the same as what good voice teachers and good singers mean when they say vibrato, because a healthy vibrato, I'm not doing anything to my voice to make that happen. I'm literally doing nothing, and the vibrato comes out on its own. But I can overproduce and do and I'm using this, and I'm using mostly diaphragm action to make that happen. But you can also do it with the jaw, or with the throat. That's diaphragm vibrato. So each of those I would say needs a different term, but I'm not big enough in the vocal world to come in and give them new vocabulary. So the thing that you don't like in the older, especially the older sopranos, that big wobbly, like could drive a truck through that vibrato, it's not the same thing as like a healthy natural vibrato. So you'll call it the same thing because it's the wobble in the voice, whatever. Like vibrato has just come to mean a voice that wobbles around the pitch a little bit, either in a healthy, beautiful way, like many opera singers will do, or in an unattractive, giant, floppy, wobbly way that an older singer does. But those are distinct things. One is the older one is a result of the lack of vocal fold, muscle tone, more than anything. It's just floppy technique. And the healthy vibrato is what comes out when everything is well produced. So the challenge is you can get rid of that big wobbly vibrato by tightening things up a little bit. And that's what most people end up doing is you'll have, let's say, Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Like, you know those singers, right? We all know those singers. So what you could do is instead, tighten up the throat a little bit, tighten up the face, tighten up all that, and go, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. And it's better because the wobble is just so bad originally, but now it's a tight, kind of closed off. There's no warmth to the sound.
Yeah.
It's very straight tone, it's very dry.
Yeah.
So for me, what I've found with my older singers is that it's more of a amount of practice thing than it is a technique thing. It's sort of like riding a bike. You know, you could read a book all day about riding a bike, but you need to actually get on the bike and ride it over and over again until you don't fall down anymore.
Do you ever watch YouTube?
I do a lot, yeah.
Have you ever watched, it's an old one, a video of John Sutherland and Marilyn Horne doing the Flower Song?
I don't think so. I've seen a lot of old Joan Sutherland.
Yes, a duet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was it?
I said I've seen a lot of Joan Sutherland, but I don't think I've seen that one.
And I mean, this is old enough where she's still got the big poofy hair.
Yeah.
You know, and they're both, I suppose, 60-ish or something.
Mhm.
And, but wow.
Yep.
Those two voices together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that's the thing is you won't see, because you'd think when you hear a lot of older sopranos and you hear that kind of sound, you'd think that it would be just a thing of age. But you hear well-trained professional singers, they don't have that. And it's because they're staying in shape. You know, they're continuing to sing, and so the muscle tone is still there.
Oh.
You know, like climbing the stairs. You know, you say like, oh, well, you know, I'm struggling to climb the stairs now that I'm 90. And you say, well, it's not that you need to learn a better stair climbing technique. It's that you need more muscle in your legs because you just
Which
activate.
is the lower soprano? Contralto?
So contralto is below alto. Mezzo
it
soprano.
is?
Yeah, mezzo
Mezzo
soprano
is the
what
lower
they.
soprano,
Yeah, so
and then
contralto,
you have
alto,
coloratura.
mezzo. Coloratura is and that coloratura is less about range. It's slightly higher range than a regular soprano, but coloratura is more about technique. It's having the agility to like bounce around and do those little runs and stuff. So like the Queen of the Night aria, the
Okay.
that's coloratura.
So,
Yeah.
I haven't
Sutherland
even
was
heard that term.
coloratura?
Yeah.
She
And so
was.
and I don't specialize in the opera thing,
And
but
Marilyn Horne was in what?
oh.
She's
Yeah,
lower.
yeah. She might just be a contralto.
A contralto.
Yeah, one of my partners in college was a contralto, but that's very rare until like late 20s, early 30s, where that really settles in. Some of those the more extreme vocal types tend to come out with a little bit more training and a little bit more age. You don't see them as much in a first, second year. Like pretty much everyone's a mezzo until they've had a few years of training, because you don't learn how to use those extremes of your range until you've had it. Same thing with men. Most like 85 to 90% of men are baritones until they've had a while of training, and they'll still be more comfortable in the baritone range, and then like the counter tenor to the super high stuff, and the contrabass.
Oh, I hate countertenors.
Me too.
Are
Me
you
too.
kidding?
And that, me too.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound natural.
Well,
to me.
and the other thing that's so funny about it is like a lot of guys take pride in their high notes, but like I've never met a woman who likes tenors more than basses. Every woman wants basses. They like a good low bass sings up there. They're like, oh, I love.
No, there's nothing like a beautiful tenor.
An Irish tenor, I'll tell you. Yeah, there's something lovely about that. So yeah, so to say that for you, I'm not hearing an unhealthy amount of vibrato in your voice in particular.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
feel like I have much of it in.
Yeah. And so what I would say is it'll come from relaxing some of that will help some of your natural vibrato come out more, which is that warmth in the tone. So instead of there's just a relaxing and opening of the throat. But you might find that it gets to that extreme of getting too wobbly just because of age and lack of muscle tone, and it might go to that extreme. So in those times, I don't want to ever encourage you to have a tight voice, but that might just be that amount of vibrato is going to come out when you're completely relaxed because you don't sing that much. And so if you sing for 2 or 3 minutes a day and build, like I was saying with the brushing your teeth thing, you build up that muscle tone through some daily work. And I have a ton of, my exercises are on YouTube. I've got MP3 recordings you can put on your phone, and there's 1,000 out there as well. Of just if you look up vocal warm-ups for soprano or vocal warm-ups for contralto or whatever, you'll find some good stuff. And you can pick the ones that you like, and you can jump around and do different things every day. But as long as you're using your voice through your range a little bit more than just the spoken voice, you'll develop enough muscle tone that you can kind of, over time, learn to control that giant big wobble. But in terms of fixing it for other people, like, unless they have some coaching, they're probably not going to fix it. So you just got to learn to turn your ear off and not stand near those people.
No, I'm not listening to that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's with my choirs, like it's just a lot of it is just like, okay, those people are just going to sound that way, and you just got to accept that, and that's okay. And I'll keep working on them, and hopefully it'll get better. But like at the end of the day, if I've got singers who are over 70, there's some things that are just not going to happen in those voices, and it's like if you wanted to put together a football team of 55-year-olds, you're like, there's some plays you can't do once you're past your prime.
Speaking of which, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, speaking of being an old man, yeah.
When was your birthday?
It was on March 31st. I was born an hour and a half before April Fool's Day, which is why I'm always this close to being funny. And I turned 30 this year, so that was a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep, for
Well,
sure.
her birthday was a week ago.
Oh, really?
Well, 23rd.
Both Aries. There we go.
Yeah.
My brother is the 24th, so yeah, nice and stubborn, ram-headed
I don't
Aries
think
there.
so.
So.
Yes, you are stubborn.
All right, let's do one more and see how high we can get, and then we'll sing some of this stuff.
Hi?
Yeah,
Go, you
we'll
go.
start. We'll start. Look, don't worry, and I'll bring you up there. Okay?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, as we get higher there, try to just float up into that light head voice. Don't carry up that weight of the chest as you get up there. Oh. Yeah, use plenty of air. It's coming. Go for it again. Good job, Judy. Good. I'll take you up there. Lovely. Yeah, relax the throat at the top. Good. Can you keep them connected? Good job.
Jesus, Judy.
Lovely. There you go. Yeah, keep the air
That's about
pushing.
it.
You can, okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Good job.
What was it?
That was a high F. Yeah. Yeah.
High F,
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. Not bad.
When I'm singing in church,
Yeah.
the D is about the highest.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where it's. But what's very interesting, and I would encourage you to explore your high range more and do some warm ups and stuff on your own, and just play with it when you can't. Like if you use my recordings or whatever, you're not going to have you're not going to be able to see the piano or see on the staff where it is. You're just going to keep going until it goes away. The last 2 or 3 notes actually sounded a little bit better than some of the stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
I think some of it is that bridge around your C sharp D, that area where you're kind of shifting in between voices. That's a rough spot, and when you hit that rough spot, you're like, oh, it's too high. But actually, if you can just get above that, those higher notes are actually totally fine too. It's just the bridge area that's rough. So you might get access even to that F sharp G, A flat A. If you just they might be easier than the bridge, because that's very common for people where the shift between the low voice and the high voice is a hard thing. So then they shy away from that and never explore the high stuff at all. So you start that with sighs and sirens. Woo! Oh! And then you work into doing some like blind vocal exercises where you don't know how high it's going and you don't know.
Her
So you
breath
just
seemed different.
the higher it goes. When you could hear the vibrato came out a little bit more too.
Yep,
The
and
E
it was-
flat and
it was
everything,
very
it was
nicely
warmer
done.
and more
Yeah.
clear. It wasn't as pressed as the bridge.
Yep.
Super common. Like you as a pianist, you know that there's a few scales where there's like a certain crossover with the fingers that's a little bit complicated. Same thing with like on a clarinet. There's the break on the clarinet is when you go from all the fingers to none of the fingers, and like one note next to the next note is just everything to nothing, and that's a hard thing to do because you have to time every single finger moving at the same time. If one finger moves a little bit early, then you get these weird other notes popping out in between instead of everything coming off clear, or the crossovers with the thumb and everything. Some scales are easier to play than others. It's the same thing in our voices, that we have these little moments in our range where something's shifting muscle-wise, and just some notes feel like, oh, something weird is happening here. And that's really the main thing in voice training, is to smooth out those breaks. Like that's one of the big, it's ear training so you sing in tune, it's breath support so you can sing a long phrase, and it's being able to negotiate through the weird cracks and breaks that are unique to your voice. And for you, it's relatively high, so it feels like, oh, maybe that's the top of my range. And it's like, well, that's a transition point to get you into your high range. And you don't need to sing though. If you're happy singing alto, like you can sing as high as you need to right now. But I really do think, if you did some daily practice for a few months, you might be able to get 4 or 5 more high notes and feel comfortable with them.
Yeah, but what alto needs to be able to do an
Exactly. So you
A-flat,
need to know what your goals are, and I don't determine your goals, you determine your goals. So let's sing some of our songs.